On July 19th, 1977, the world teacher, the Christ Maitreya, head of the spiritual hierarchy, emerged from his ancient retreat and is now in the modern world. With his disciples, the Masters of the Wisdom, he will inaugurate the new age of synthesis and brotherhood.
Good morning and welcome to our World Teacher Programme on Wellington's Access Radio 106.1 FM. Presented by Teresa and David on behalf of Share International New Zealand.
Today we have 3 articles sourced from the Special Information issue of Share International, published in 1998. The first covers the history of mankind. The second introduces the teachers who have always been with us, guiding and inspiring. And the final article brings us up to date with the relationship between the Master Jesus and Maitreya. We'll start with a contribution by Aart Jurriaanse, a South African author who has written a number of books based on the teachings of Alice A. Bailey. Titled Evolution of Humanity Began Over 18 Million Years Ago, it begins.
The history of mankind is much older than is generally accepted. The ageless wisdom teachings postulate that it is not less than 18.5 million years since the individualization of animal man. The following article is a brief summary of some of the most significant developments in his evolution.
About 21 million years ago, animal man made his appearance on the world scene as a separate species in the animal kingdom. These specimens were as yet mindless and thus should still be regarded as animals, but with the physical build and appearance of primitive human beings.
Some 2.5 million years later, or 18.5 million years ago, a group of beings from other planetary schemes, in particular from Venus, were brought to Earth to assist in arousing the mind principle and leading to the individualization of animal man. This band formed the nucleus of those superior beings who subsequently became known as the White Brotherhood, or the hierarchy of Masters of Wisdom.
Their headquarters was established on etheric levels and is referred to by esotericists as Shambhala. Although located in the etheric realm, Shambhala is recognized as occupying a definite position in space in the Gobi Desert.
After a further lapse of 1.5 million years, or about 17 million years ago, it was decided that more effective results would be obtained if representatives of the Brotherhood were to function in dense material bodies on the physical plane, thus enabling them to serve as practical guides and leaders of the evolving race.
The first outpost of the fraternity was established at a place then known as Ibis, located somewhere in the central regions of South America. Aeons later, remnants of this original culture were still traceable in the ancient Maya institutions. A second branch became rooted in Asia, giving rise to, among others, the appearance and work of the Himalayan and southern Indian adepts.
In this connection, the Master Kul, known as the Tibetan, prophesies that at some future date, much of the mystery still enshrouding prehistory in general and early history of the Near East, the Gobi Desert and Central Asia in particular, will be revealed with the discovery of certain ancient monuments and records.
Some of these will be found above ground, and others in subterranean fastnesses, where many of these archaic chronicles are still intact and have been safely conserved as convincing testimony to the truth of these ancient historical facts. Historically, the original race of men became known as Lemurians, named after their country Lemuria, situated somewhere in the region now occupied by the Pacific Ocean, and probably also including parts of both North and South America.
After a protracted period of some 3 million years of slow development, the greater part of Lemuria was destroyed by volcanic action and disappeared below the seas, leaving only a number of smaller islands where once there had been a vast continent. Some remnants of the race escaped, however, to become the founders of the future Atlantean race, which originated about 12 million years ago. Where Lemuria lay to the west of the Americas, the continent of Atlantis was situated mainly east of these continents, comprising a region now mostly covered by the Atlantic Ocean, and stretching far out from the Americas towards Europe and North Africa.
Little detailed knowledge of these two early human races is available, but a general description can be given of the various stages through which they evolved. The spark of mind, the first distinctive attribute of the soul, which served to lift the Lemurians from the animal into the human kingdom, remained for long somewhat dormant.
In the course of time, this gradual awakening produced men still largely retaining their animal tendencies. Only the primitive forms of emotion, such as sexual desire and fear of physical pain, were as yet apparent. The awakening of the principles of desire and emotion indicated the approach of the Atlantean phase, when man no longer remained satisfied with simple physical or animal existence.
In those early days of Lemuria and Atlantis, the primitive masses were led by their priest kings, assisted by adepts, initiates, and disciples, the direct descendants of the former White Brotherhood, who still formed the only real source of intelligent and spiritual guidance. The hierarchy finally came to the decision to withdraw its representatives to etheric levels.
As happened previously with Lemuria, the destruction of Atlantis, including most of its population, occurred by cataclysmic convulsions of the Earth's crust, and subsequent submergence of the greater part of the continent.
According to H.P. Blavatsky in The Secret Doctrine, this inundation of the mainland of Atlantis took place several million years ago. A few large islands were, however, allowed to survive the disaster, and these provided a sanctuary for some favoured and more advanced groups, who were spared to serve as points of nucleus for the partial restoration and regeneration of the race, and to permit man's evolutionary process to proceed without undue interruption.
About 98,000 years before our present time, the larger part of these islands were in their turn swallowed by the seas, leaving only one relatively small remnant west of the Pillars of Gibraltar, which Plato referred to as Poseidonis, or Atlantis.
This remaining fragment finally also disappeared below the waters 15 to 16,000 BC, but not before a number of survivors had been allowed to escape and to introduce civilization where they settled, in parts of what today are known as Europe, the Mediterranean regions, and the Near and Middle East. It is this submergence of Atlantis which gave rise to the symbolic biblical chronicle about the deluge and Noah's Ark.
The next article is titled Avatars Down the Ages by Felicity Elliott, an Amsterdam-based editor of Share International. She begins,
The successive revelation to humanity of new aspects of reality has taken place throughout history and continues to do so, as the emergence of Maitreya the Christ demonstrates. In the West, our knowledge is more or less confined to Christianity, but buried in most ancient myths and legends, and then later on in Holy Scriptures, there are preserved records of the lives, presence, and teachings of other earlier teachers or avatars.
Our focus on the achievements of Jesus in Palestine frequently blinds us to, or at least dims our appreciation of, the contribution of other avatars and other faiths. This blinkered view of the unfoldment of humanity's evolution makes the acceptance of the appearance of yet another teacher difficult for many Westerners. Each avatar has brought some teaching which, correctly apprehended and gradually applied by humanity, expands our understanding and is the next step forward in our development.
One of the first such teachers appeared so far back in time that it is impossible to say when he lived, but ancient legend carries the memory of his achievements. Hercules, a hero teacher, portrayed through the form of a pictorial and world drama, symbolic in nature, the concept of a great objective only to be reached as a result of struggle and difficulty. Source: Alice Bailey, The Reappearance of the Christ, Lucis Press.
He presented to humanity the concept of tests and trials on the path back to the Father. The journey of evolution itself, epitomized and preserved in the 12 labours of Hercules. These are the tests all are subjected to prior to each initiation.
Vyasa was another great avatar who brought to humanity the message that death is not the end. The impact of such an apparently simple concept was enormous, since it meant that the possibility now existed for identification with a higher immortal self rather than with the physical plane life only.
There were many other lesser teachers between the time of Vyasa and the Buddha, but the Buddha was a major teacher who came to the East bringing enlightenment and the answers to many questions which plague and puzzle humanity about its own existence.
Alice Bailey in The Reappearance of the Christ says, "He came to lay the foundation for a more enlightened approach to life, giving the teaching which would open the door to the work of the Christ, who would, he knew, follow in his steps."
By giving out the 4 noble truths, he answered man's question, why? He taught that man's suffering was of his own making, and that the focusing of desire on the material and the ephemeral caused all despair, hatred, and competition, and was why man found himself living in the realm of death, the realm of physical living.
His life, example, and teachings prepared the way for the Christ. Coming approximately 500 years before the Christ, the Buddha was a manifestation of the wisdom aspect of God, just as the Christ is the embodiment of the love aspect. These 2 great avatars continue to work together, the Buddha aiding and supporting Maitreya the Christ in his present mission to the world.
It's interesting to note that he who is known as the Buddha worked through his disciple, the Prince Gautama, in a way similar to that in which Maitreya, holder of the office of the Christ, overshadowed the disciple Jesus, who acted as his vehicle in Palestine.
The Master DK says in The Reappearance of the Christ that around about the time of the Christ's return, the Buddha will send 2 trained disciples to reform Buddhism. This at a time when the Master Jesus will be taking certain initial steps towards reassuming control of his church. Buddhism, along with other religions, awaits the coming of another great teacher. He is known as Maitreya Buddha, the 5th Buddha in the continuing line of divine revelation.
Sri Krishna and Sankaracharya, 2 great avatars, were both previous incarnations of Maitreya. Krishna appeared around 3000 BC and Sankaracharya lived about 800 BC. Sankaracharya gave deep instruction upon the nature of the self, while Sri Krishna, by demonstrating the need to control the astral emotional nature, opened the door to the second initiation. In Palestine, working through the disciple Jesus, Maitreya, the Christ, completed the work of the Buddha by manifesting the love aspect of deity.
A comparison of all religions shows their common elements. Eventually, a new world religion will be inaugurated, which will be a fusion and synthesis of the approaches of East and West. The Christ will bring together not simply Christianity and Buddhism, but the concept of God transcendent, outside his creation, and also the concept of God immanent in all creation, in man and all creation. Both approaches will come together in a new religion based on the mysteries of initiation and an informed knowledge of the science of invocation of deity.
You're listening to the World Teacher Program on Wellington's Access Radio 106.1 FM. Our final article is by Peter Leafheber. It's titled Jesus of Nazareth and Maitreya the Christ.
Jesus of Nazareth and the Christ are not one and the same person. This is one of the most difficult claims for many Christians to accept in connection with Maitreya, the world teacher, and it therefore requires some further explanation. In fact, the title Christ does not refer to an individual at all. It is the name of a function in the hierarchy of masters of wisdom, that group of advanced beings who guide the evolution of humanity from behind the scenes.
Whoever stands at the head of this hierarchy automatically becomes the world teacher, known in the East as the Bodhisattva, during the term of his office. Maitreya, who embodies the energy we call the Christ principle, has held that office for over 2 millennia. And in Palestine he manifested himself as the Christ to inaugurate the age of Pisces, then beginning.
The method he used is called spiritual overshadowing. That is, his consciousness informed and guided the actions and teachings of his disciple Jesus. It was therefore the consciousness of the Christ Maitreya which was seen and experienced by those around Jesus.
In reality, Jesus was a 4th degree initiate and one of the older disciples of the Masters of Wisdom. He appeared before in biblical times as Joshua, the son of Nun, then as Isaiah, and again as Joshua in the book of Zechariah. In Palestine he made the great sacrifice of allowing himself to be used by Maitreya to fulfill his mission during the 3 years following the baptism in the river Jordan.
During his life, Jesus also symbolically enacted the 5 initiations which lead one to mastership. The experience on the cross was the enactment of the 4th initiation for Jesus. His birth, the baptism, and the transfiguration on the Mount symbolized the first 3, while at the same time Maitreya underwent a higher initiation.
The events from Jesus' life and his words have been greatly misinterpreted due to this little understood connection between his work and that of Maitreya the Christ. This has given rise to the age-old theological point of contention, namely, whether Jesus was God or man, or perhaps both together.
The answer is that Jesus was a man who, as a result of the process of evolution, became a son of God, as does everyone eventually. Others had gone before him on that path, and many have taken it since. Christians who are of the opinion that it is not given to anyone to try and emulate Jesus' accomplishment, who, as far as they are concerned, is God, or at least his only Son, are contradicted by his own words. Become perfect even as the Father in heaven is perfect, and greater things than I have done shall you do.
Jesus' death was the fulfillment of the task for that life, and it was Maitreya who resurrected the body from the tomb as a symbol for the 5th initiation, just as the ascension was symbolic of the 6th initiation. This presentation of ancient occult knowledge in symbolic form is one of the methods which the spiritual hierarchy uses to teach humanity, and to convey knowledge to those who have ears to hear and eyes to see.
In the lives of the Buddha, Mithra and Krishna, similar symbolic events can also be found. The famed labours of Hercules, too, are nothing less than part of the initiation process expressed in symbolic form.
The disciple Jesus of 2,000 years ago has by now become one of the most senior masters in the hierarchy, the Master Jesus. He reached his state of perfection in the course of his next life as Apollonius of Tyana. Many of those who followed him during his life as Jesus were still alive during his subsequent incarnation, and many of them became convinced that Jesus had reappeared in their midst. It was Apollonius who undertook a journey to India, which became the basis for the story, which many believe, that Jesus did not die on the cross, but went to India and died in Kashmir, having lived to a venerable old age.
The Master Jesus has been incarnate in a Syrian body for about 640 years. He is described in Initiation Human and Solar by Alice A. Bailey, published by the Lucis Trust, as follows. He is rather a martial figure, a disciplinarian, and a man of iron rule and will. He is tall and spare, with rather a long thin face, black hair, pale complexion, and piercing blue eyes.
During most of this time he has lived mainly in Palestine. Since 1984, however, he has lived in Rome. The intention is that he will try to raise the Christian churches out of their state of crystallization and rivalry, and, if invited to do so, lead a newly united church. By so doing, he hopes to resolve the many contradictions and misunderstandings which have arisen during the course of the centuries about his historic role and the teachings which he then disseminated as a vehicle for Maitreya.
In the hierarchy, he is described as the great leader, the general, and the wise executive. Initiation Human and Solar says of him, "No one is so closely in touch with the people who will stand for all that is best in the Christian teachings, and no one is so well aware of the needs of the present moment."
With the emergence of Maitreya, the Master Jesus is, for the second time, playing a major role in carrying out the Christ's purpose, as are also the Apostles Peter and John.
2,000 years ago they were third-degree initiates. Now they have been entrusted with a significant aspect of completing the plan as the Master Maurya and the Master who will succeed Maitreya as the Christ during the next era in about 2,500 years, Kutumi. This open collaboration, which will be visible to all, will end any lingering doubts concerning the true relationship between Maitreya the Christ and his disciple the Master Jesus.
Thus, the seemingly paradoxical claim that Jesus and the Christ are not the same person in the literal sense of the word is more reasonable than it would appear. Those Christians who find it difficult to accept that their teacher is not the highest leader of all humanity may, however, take solace in the second paradox. Jesus and Maitreya the Christ were and are one in the sense that they, each on his own level, work together in perfect concord to further the divine plan.
And now we'll end our programme today with an extract from Maitreya's message number 28.
My emergence proceeds. Many now there are who know me and call me friend, who salute me daily, whose smile of welcome I cherish. Soon I shall be known to you in a certain fashion, outlining for you the possibilities of change. May you quickly see me, know me, and work for me. My plan is to show myself to the world so soon now that there will remain but little doubt that the Lord of love is here, that the Son of Man is among you, that the Prince of Peace has returned.
And that's our program for today. If you have any questions or would like to know more about the World Teacher Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom, please call us on 06 3646 101 or visit the website share-international.org, where you will find more information on the various aspects of the emergence.
To inquire about Share International magazine subscriptions, books by Benjamin Creme, or our monthly free of charge newsletter, the number is 04234 1133, or write to P.O. Box 9576 Wellington.
Thank you for listening to us on Wellington's Access Radio 106.1 FM. And please tune in to our next World Teacher program on Saturday the 8th of June at the usual time of 10 a.m.
You can listen again to this program and previous ones by visiting our website at share-international-nz.info and click on the radio tab.